All right, Shalom Israel, where the Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Command General Yohana, and we're not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. So tonight's class is the Hebrew Lashawan Qadash class, all right? It's the Lashawan Qadash class. Now, this class is very important to attend. Also, do not forget to put your name, city, and state within the live chat for attendance, all right? Attendance is important. That's how you get the credit. So don't forget to put your name, city, and state. All right, Most High in Christ. Don't forget that. Now, most importantly, too, this class is how you learn your language. I tell my brothers all the time, if you don't know how to speak Hebrew, then how can you be considered an Israelite? Like every nation and race of people has their own language. They have their own culture. They have their own heritage. They have their own customs. That's what makes them them. That's what makes the Chinese the Chinese. That's what's going to make the Japanese the Japanese. That's what makes the Vietnamese the Vietnamese. That's what makes the Koreans. You may think they're all Asians. You think they all may come from Moab and Ammon, all right, and different tribes of Moab, I should say, but they separate themselves and they have their own customs and culture and languages to separate themselves. It was all about separation. It was all about division. It was all about separating themselves from other people, even if it meant their own, so to speak. Even our oppressor did it. That's why you have the English, the British, the French, the Italians, the Dutch, the Welches, the you name it, the Danes. You guys get the Germans. You guys get my point. They're all oppressors. You understand? Y'all get my point. They're all oppressors, but they separated themselves and they have their own languages because they had their own customs, their own culture that they wanted to hold on to, give or take. Most of our oppressors follow the same thing, just in a different language. All right, remotely. All right, mostly they follow the same thing, but it's in German or in Italian or in Dutch or in Espanol, which would be the language of the Spaniards. All right, we're not talking about Spanish. We're talking about Espanol. You know that vosotros instead of the nosotros that we say nosotros, while they say vosotros. All right, there's a difference. One is our oppressor, the one is God's chosen people. And speaking of God's chosen people, we have a culture and a custom and a heritage, and so happening a language of our own. And that language is the Hebrew language, the Lashawan Qadash, meaning the holy tongue. Lashawan meaning tongue, Qadash meaning holy. All right, we have our own language, and it was so important to be separate. It was so important that during the times of Nehemiah, and I want y'all to pay attention to this, like it was so important that even in Nehemiah had to get down with other brothers and sisters because they didn't know how to speak the language, and on top of that, they believed that they started to practice a thing called interracial marriaging. Now, if you didn't know, interracial marriaging is against the Lord. Like you were never supposed to go outside of your race or nation of people and marry another people. The Lord was absolutely against it. Biblically speaking, being biblically accurate, these you were not allowed to go outside of your nation and marry another nation of people. This is what the Lord was saying in the Bible. That's what Nehemiah was saying in the Bible. That's what all the priests and prophets of the Lord were saying in the Bible. That's what Moses was saying in the Bible. That's what the law says in the Bible. You were never allowed to go outside of your nation and marry another people. That was in our law. And you were supposed to install that into your heart. Now, I'm not talking about the one that bumps blood throughout your body so your blood pressure and your blood levels are prop all right. I ain't talking about that heart. I'm talking about in your mind, your heart. You're supposed to install that into your heart. You were supposed to install that into your mind. You were supposed to meditate that. You're supposed to wear that on your head, meaning think about it always. Like that, like you were supposed to never go outside of your nation and marry another people. And when we go into Nehemiah, let me go ahead and share the screen too. I'm gonna go into the dictionary, man. Not the dictionary, the blue in the blue letter Bible, and I'm gonna read it for y'all. And we're gonna get Nehemiah. I believe it's chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 23, 24, roughly around there. All right. Let's get Nehemiah chapter 13, man. And I always pull this scripture almost every Hebrew class because it's, first off, I love it. I love the scripture. It's a scripture that everybody should know. So Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 23. Now you see this right here? It says mixed marriage is forbidden. Y'all see that, right? Y'all see the fact that it says it. All right. It says mixed marriage is forbidden, meaning you were never supposed, okay, you were never supposed to go outside of your nation and marry another people. That's why it says mixed marriage is forbidden. Because throughout the Bible, you were not allowed to do that. The way you seen at one point Kanye with Kim Kardashian, you were never supposed to see that. The way you see Terrence Howard with his woman, you were never ever supposed to see that. When you seen OJ with the women that he was with, you were never supposed to see that. When you seen Tiger Woods with the women that he was with, you were never supposed to see things like that. The Lord was absolutely against it. When you seen Lamar Odom with the women that he was with, you were never supposed to see that because that was against the Lord. And here's the reason why it was against the Lord. The Lord's going to explain it here too as well. Instead of going into Deuteronomy about it, we're going to get it here because it talks about it right here. So now it says in Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 23, and it says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. So for time's sake, Ashdod is the so-called Jewish man. All right, Amalek. Amalek is one of the tribes of Amalek, one of the sons of Amalek, a nation within Amalek, which is still within the nation of Edom. And Ashdod. So let's talk about your so-called Jewish man. Just like those Jewish men that Kanye is talking about now throughout the media and taking a stand on whatever the case may be, Kanye doing his best out there, whatever the case may be. All right, and we'll see how far he keeps it up. But what he's saying about the Jewish man is absolutely true, and the ISUPK has been saying it for years. We've been saying it since 1969. We've been saying it since we've been saying this before Kanye was even thought of. You feel me? Before Kanye was even born. All right. The ISUPK was talking about Amalek the way he is now. All right. So I want y'all to, I pray y'all understand that. And so in those days also, I saw Jews that married the wives of Ashdod, the so-called Jewish man of Ammon. That's your so-called Japanese today. And then it says of Moab, that would be your so-called Chinese today. So of course, in a nutshell, Ashdod, Ammon, or Moab, they are not Israelites. You guys get the point? They are not Jews. That's why I said, you see that? Because you see that one that's highlighted right there? That's a nation or a race of people. You understand? That is a nation of people. That's a race. The Jews are a nation of people. It's not something you can become because you believe. It's not something you can just convert to just because of the hell of it. You have to be born a Jew. You can do what Jews do if you would like. That's fine. You can do what we do. You can keep the law like we keep the law. That's fine. You cannot eat pork from a lobster like us. That's fine. That's cool. Cool. Whatever. You cannot murder and steal like we don't. That's fine. Don't murder. Don't kill. But you'll never be a Jew. You'll never be an actual Jew. You'll never actually be an Israelite. Everybody gets my point, right? You can do what we do. Not eat pork. Not eat the shrimp. Not eat the lobster. Don't murder. Don't kill. Don't steal. Don't con your brother out. Don't glean your whatever. Don't get tattoos. You understand? Don't worship other idols and gods. You can do those things. Don't do those things. If you would like, enjoy. Don't do it. The world would be a better place if you decided to do what the Jews do. All right. The world would be a better place if you did what the Israelites were commanded to do. You understand? The world would be a better place. Absolutely. That's why when Christ returns, we're going to rule the earth because we're going to make the entire planet a better place. All right. Without the oppressor, the planet is going to be a better place. You may not want to hear things like that, but the oppressor not existing on the earth, the planet is going to be a better place. Without seeing your Donald Trumps You understand? The earth, the planet is going to be a better place. I want you guys to install that into your heads. I want you to realize who's causing all the pain and all the destruction on the earth and all of the chaos on the earth. That's why Christ has to return. And so blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians can rule the earth so we can make it a better place. Without seeing George Bush's and Bill Clinton's and your Ronald Reagan's and your Mike Pence's, right? Not seeing them on the earth, Hillary Clinton's, not seeing them on the earth any longer is going to make the planet a better place. The oxygen is going to get better. The air is going to be better without them. No, without them. You understand? The planet is going to be better. The grass is going to grow better without them. The trees are going to grow better without them. You understand? Oxygen levels are going to change without them. More animals are going to be on the earth without them. The waters are going to be cleaner without them. They're the ones killing the planet. They're the ones destroying the earth. Simultaneously, while they're destroying the earth, they're talking about go green, save the ozone layer, don't use these type of sprays. Well, if you don't want us to use these kind of aerosol cans, why create them? Because the Bible says that they're children of fools. That's what the Lord says. Not to get too far off topic, but you understand? The planet, it will be better without them. That's why we have to learn this language. That's why we have to learn the Hebrew. That's why we have to learn the Lashawan Qadash. So we can make the planet a better place. And that can only happen by keeping the law, coming into the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge, and learning how to keep the law. And then Christ returning and going to war with all the nations so we can rule the earth. That's the only way it's going to happen, cuz. That's the only one. That's the only way it's going to happen. That's the only way. That's the only way it's going to happen. Akwa. It's not going to happen any other way. Praying to that so-called white Jesus isn't going to save you. Saying I'm covered by the blood isn't going to fix anything and save you. It's not going to save us. Going into that church every Sunday isn't going to save us. That isn't going to protect us. You going into the voting booths, all right? You going into the voting booths, all right, every 4 years to choose a Republican president or a Democratic president or a Republican Congress member or a Democratic Congress member or a Republican Senate or a Democratic Senate or a Republican governor or a Democratic governor or a state executive as a Republican or a Democratic state executive. None of that is going to work for us. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make the earth a better place. It's not going to, and it never will. That's why we're in here. That's why it's imperative to learn this language. It's imperative. This is a part of the separation. This is a part of the division. This is a part of, read my mind, read my thoughts, preparing the kingdom of heaven. You want Christ's return? You better get fluent in Hebrew. If you want Christ to return just as much as everyone else in this truth, learn the Hebrew. Learn how to say Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Brakatham. Or Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Brakatah. Learn how to say Yahweh Shema Alatah Ba'ashim Yahushua. Learn how to say Ma'atah. You understand? Learn how to say these things. Learn how to say Yahweh Alaham Yahweh Yahweh Akkad. It's like it. Learn how to say Shema Yasha Allah Yahweh Alaham Yahweh Yahweh Akkad. Learn how to say those things. Learn how to be fluent in Hebrew. Learn how to say Barasha Bara wa Alam wa Arataza. Learn how to speak the Hebrew. Learn it. It's important. It's important. Don't think it's not. It's important. This is a part of the process. And this is something that my father taught me when I was young. All right. When I was young, my father taught me this. He said, don't cheat yourself. Don't cheat yourself, but treat yourself. Now, I don't know where he got it from. Maybe he got it from his father. Maybe he got it from some basketball player or some, whatever. It doesn't matter. but it is a good saying, and I like it. Don't cheat yourself, treat yourself. All right. I use that saying. Hey, don't take the easy way. It is not ISUPK to take the easy way. If it was easy, then everyone could be back here. If it was easy, then everyone could do it. That's why you are here. That's why you are in class, because not everybody can do it. Well, here's your chance to do it, Akim. If there's any Akwakian out there, here's your time to do it. Here's your time to do it. Right now, this is your chance. Not tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Today, right now, as we speak at 7:20 p.m., depending the time zone that you're in. Could be 6:20, whatever the case may be, all right? It's today. You may have not done it yesterday, no sweat. But if you're in this class today, it starts today. Do it. Do it. Take that step, Akim. It's not easy. But who said it was? That's why we're back here. That's why you're in class. Why everyone is taking the easy way, clapping their hands at church. You're here, learning your culture, learning your language. I pray you understand. And it says, verse 24, and the children spake in the half of Ashdod and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. So now, because we decided to marry ourselves to another nation of people, because we decided to join ourselves to another people, now we don't know our own language. It says, and their children spake in the half speech of Ashdod. Now, it may say Ashdod, but remember there's other nations there too, Moab and Ammon, meaning we spoke half the language of the people of Ashdod. So whatever language was the Ashdod at that time, we spoke half of it and could not speak in the Jews' language. Does anybody know what the Jews' language is? You guessed it. It's the Hebrew. It's the Lashawan Qadash, but could not speak in the Jews' language. So imagine, allow me to bring it home. Imagine your father is an Israelite. Your father is from the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Gad, Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, you name it. All right? They're from there. Your father's from there. And so because your father's from there, you're an Israelite because you come from his seed, right? And so now, let's say your father, in absolute ignorance, I pray, all right, decided to marry a heathen, to marry someone outside of his nation. And now you are born. Now, let's say your mother is an oppressor, because that's common. Your mother, that's in the black community, is an oppressor. And don't think it's uncommon in the Latino community or the Native American community either. All right, it's common to marry an oppressor, even though we're not supposed to. That's why these curses are all around us. That's why we're going through so much pain and trauma and all of that. All right, and sometimes you'll see our Latino brothers fall for those Filipinos. You know, you're wondering why those Filipinos and those Asians are wearing grills in their mouths. All right, and trying to be black and listening to black music. Those Asians or those Filipinos and those whatever they are, is because we are marrying them and teaching them our ways. You're not supposed to do that. Right, you're supposed to stay separate. But imagine your mother is that, and your mother speaks English. So imagine the only language you know how to speak is the English language, and your father's language is the Hebrew language. So your father speaks Hebrew, and your mother spoke English, but all you know is English, right? And you didn't even take the chance to learn Hebrew for whatever the reason it may be. Your father may have died, your father's not there, whatever the case may be, or your father didn't give a damn about his own culture. That's why he married that heathen anyway. Whatever the case may be, that's what's happening in Nehemiah. All right, this is what happened. And the children spake half in the speech of Ashdod and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. They were able to speak the language of Moab, but they weren't able to speak the Hebrew language. They were able to speak the language of the Ammonites, right? But they were not able. They were not able to speak the language of the Hebrews. They were able to speak the language of the Ashdod, but they were not able to speak the language of the Israelites. They were not. They were not able. See if I can do something about that right here. There we go. No sweat. Most High in Christ. So now, of course, our oppressor always being the devil. Got to handle it right there and then. And so now, so that's pretty much what was happening. All right. That's pretty much what was going on. All right. And so this is what Nehemiah had to do in order for us. Now, I want y'all to pay close attention to what Nehemiah had to do. All right. Let's see what Nehemiah had to do. Now, thank goodness that you guys are not in these times. Thank goodness that you guys are not in these times. Because in order for you to learn Hebrew and to understand that you were supposed to know the Hebrew language, and you were known, and you were supposed to know that you were not allowed to go outside of your nation and marry other people. This is what Nehemiah did. In Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 25, it says, "And I contended with them," meaning he fought them. He went to war with these brothers. He seen these brothers and he seen these Jews, and he went to war with them. He fought them, hands, straight hands, paws, and feet out. All right. That's why, the Christian church completely made brothers in the Bible so weak. They made the priests and prophets of the Lord so weak and so nimble and so soft and so sweet, so fragrant. You understand? So fragrant, like that's real. Like they made us so that's real fragrant out. You know what I'm saying? Like we not fragrant. We're not sweet out here. We're not soft out here. You understand? We none of that. The priests of the Lord, the priests of the Lord. All right, God's chosen people, priests of the Lord, priests and prophets of the Lord. There was nothing fragrant about us. There was nothing sweet about us. Nothing soft. We were warriors. Hands, paws, feet, swords, war. That was that. And I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them. So he went to straight war with these brothers and plucked off their hair. So it was so bad. Imagine this is how you had to learn to not marry another nation of people. Imagine if this is the way you had to learn to know how to speak Hebrew. Imagine this. All we're asking you, listen now, I need y'all to appreciate what the UPK is doing. I want y'all to appreciate what these priests and prophets of the Lord are doing. All we're asking you is to come to class and put your name, city, and state. Nehemiah didn't ask them to put their name, city, and state. I pray you understand. Nehemiah didn't ask them that. Nehemiah said, hands, paws, feet, sword, death, straight up and down. That's what Nehemiah said. These brothers had to learn the hard way. Listen, Brakatah Yahweh Yahushua for Christ, you understand? Because now we don't have to learn the hard way. Now we have a chance to learn the right way. All right? There's a chance for us to learn the easy way. All right? I pray you understand. By coming to class and learning how to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. Because there's going to come a time again that brothers and sisters are going to learn the hard way. And that's when Christ returns. And it's going to be worse than Nehemiah putting his hands on you. Your eyes are going to be burning out of your eyelids. Whatever's going to happen, your skin is going to absolutely evaporate, man. Evaporate. Your skin is going to evaporate right in front of you. You're going to feel your skin evaporate, your eyes out of your eyelids, thermonuclear war. You're going to learn the hard way. You understand? You don't want that. Don't learn the hard way. And it says, and made them swear by God, saying, you shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters into your sons, or for yourselves. Because we were never supposed to go outside of our nation and marry. Why? Here's the spirit of it all. You lose who you are. You lose who you are supposed to be. If you are an Israelite and you go outside of your nation and you marry another and you marry outside of your nation and marry another race of people, you lose who you are. Slowly and surely, you're going to lose who you are. You're not going to know who you are. You understand? I pray you guys understand. While we're busy making potato salad, all right, at first, you knew how to make potato salad. You knew how to make that good, banging, bomb, whatever, bombshell potato salad. Ooh wee. You knew how to make it real good. But since you married oppressor, now there's raisins in your potato salad. You start to lose who you are. You understand? You start, instead of seasoning your food and seasoning the fish, seasoning the chicken, seasoning the tenderloins, seasoning the meat that you make, marry an oppressor. You stop putting seasoning on your food. You start to be like, this is not as healthy as it's supposed to be. The less seasoning, the better. All right? You start to lose who you are. Now, no one is telling no brother out here to just throw a bunch of seasoning on their food and end up with high blood pressure. Don't do that. All right? Know how to season your food too. All right? But put seasoning on your food. All right? Don't go crazy, but put seasoning on your food. Our oppressors don't put nothing on it. And so you learn, you start to lose who you are. You understand? You think, you start to conform to being a great American citizen. You stop being who you are. Instead of wearing boots and braids and beards, you start to shave your face. You start to wear, dress collar shirts and suits and ties and nice dress shoes. And you say, this is what it really looks like to be a real man. Being a real man got nothing to do with wearing a suit out. We were taught that because of the Christian church. We thought being a real man was about wearing a suit and tie and some dress shoes. That's not what it meant to be a real man. You understand? But you start to lose who you are. Now, is anybody saying you can't wear suits and ties? No one is saying that. If you want to wear a dress shirt or something, or you got to go, your job requires you to wear a suit and a tie and all this stuff, we're not saying that, you can't wear those things. We're not saying that's unlawful or nothing. The spirit of it is, don't change who you are. Don't try to say this is what it means to be of the Lord if you're not wearing this or you're wearing that. You know what I'm saying? Or this is what it makes you to be a man of God. People see men of God, people known to see men of God with suits and ties and dress shoes. And now because of that, we visually see that those are men of God. But real men of God look like brothers like me. Men of God look like the brothers that are coming into class right now. Rough. You know what I'm saying? Rough and rigid. Not soft, not sweet. Straight from the streets. Carrying their sword on them. You understand? Got the blicky on them. Got the K. Got the 9. Got the Draco. You understand? Those what priest and prophet of the Lord did look like. If the disciples, because we're going to get into the language right after this. Let me make my point right after this. Now you guys get the point that this is how serious it is to learn the Hebrew language. But now, if the disciples lived during this time, best and believe there would be a Draco on their hip, especially if it could be permitted. They would have the 9 on it. You understand? I pray y'all understand. They will have the Draco and the 9 and the K with the 5.56. They'll have all of that. They're going to have all of that. Fully loaded. The M16, the M4, they'll have all of it. A Smith & Wesson, a revolver. The priests of the Lord would have that on them. It's a modern day sword. Your spiritual sword is the Bible. You understand? But a physical sword is that Draco. Christ would have had a Draco. And he would have used it righteously. Peter would have had a 9. Peter would have had a revolver, and he would have used it properly. He would have used it wisely. He would have used it accordingly. You understand? I pray you understand. The priests about the Lord were not soft. All right? You know what I'm saying? They won't doing this Sunday worship. They were in them streets. You understand? Exactly. You understand? We keep our sword on us. You understand? We keep it on. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it's permitted. I keep saying when it's permitted. So for the brothers coming into the truth, just don't be taking your weapon everywhere. When it's permitted and you're doing everything legally and correct, absolutely have your weapon. But when it's permitted, have your weapon out. Have your sword. All right. Don't tell nobody Rosh Hashanah said I could bring my sword anywhere and everywhere. All right. And I'm the reason why you are being locked up and thrown in prison because you were not allowed to because you were not supposed to bring your nine or this Draco or this banana clip, whatever the case here. You weren't supposed to do that. I didn't say none of that. Only when it's permitted. All right. We follow the rules out here. All right. We're smart. Preaching by the Lord. We follow rules around here. We got some order back here. All right. But let's get into this class, man. We're gonna get into this Hebrew, all right, y'all. Y'all go ahead and keep up with me. So tonight we're gonna get into so let's go over the alphabet real quick, all right? We're gonna go over this alphabet. So now the fundamentals of learning a language is knowing the alphabet. Right? The first thing first, what you always want to learn is the alphabet. So like it. Study that alphabet. So the first thing you see on the screen is your A. All right. The fundamentals of learning the Hebrew language is learning the alphabet. And so if you did not know, all right, the Hebrew language is our language. Before I get fully into it too. All right, what you see on the screen is the letter I. And so now our language is a what's the word I want to use? I say this every class. Why is it skipping me today? It's a consonant language. Okay, there we go. The word is consonant. So the Hebrew language is a consonant language. And because the Hebrew is a consonant language, meaning it has similar sounds. So our letters are going to sound very similar. It's going to have a distinct sound to it. And so this actually makes it very easy for us to learn. Because unlike the English language, which has different sounds, when you put certain letters together, when you put our letters together, they will always keep the same sound. The sound isn't going to change drastically like how the English language, when certain letters are close to each other, it changes drastically. All right, that's not the case. So now, so let's see. So now, for an example, you know, you got in the English, you have like when you put I and E, it makes a certain sound. O and U makes a certain sound. When you put certain letters, specifically vowels, when you put certain vowels together, they make certain sounds. Now there are consonants or constants. It's not consonants in this case, constants. All right. When you put certain constants together, they make certain sounds. Like when you put PH together, it makes an F sound. That's confusing because there's literally a letter for that. There's a letter for the letter F. There's a sound for the letter F. But when you put P and H together, it also makes the F sound. That's confusing. Our language isn't that hard. You're wondering why the English language is actually one of the hardest languages to learn? It's because it's confusing. I can say xylophone. It sounds like a Z, but the beginning of the word starts with an X. Like a xylophone, like a xylophone. I think the word is called xylophone. Let me look up that word real quick. I took a note. So I read books. I read a lot of books. Okay. I read a lot of books. And because I read a lot of books, I come across new and bigger words. And there's a word called xenophobic, xenophobic, meaning meaning one unduly fearful of what is foreign and especially of people of foreign origin. Then you have something called a xenophile, one attracted to foreign things. So you can be considered a xenophile if you're attracted to more than one thing. All right, that's because I read. So, but that word stuff, it sounds like it's with a Z, but it starts with the letter X. That's confusing. You guys get my point? You guys, I know you guys get it. Like our language isn't that confusing. Our language is very, very easy to understand. So now let's get on with the alphabet. So now you got the letter A in the Assyrian, and then you have it in the ancient. Here's your Ba in the Assyrian and in the ancient. This is your Ga. It's pronounced as Ga. This is your Ga in the Assyrian. This is your Ga in the ancient. This is your Da. This is your Da in the Assyrian, your Da in the ancient. This is your Ha. This is your Ha in the Assyrian. This is your Ha in the ancient. This is your Wa. It's your Wa in the Assyrian. This is your Wa in the ancient. Here's your Za. This is your Za in the Assyrian. This is your Za in the ancient. This is your Kha. All right. This is your Kha. Now, when you're trying to pronounce this one, all right, when you're trying to pronounce this one, it has like a Kha, like you're trying to cough up, like you're trying to cough up a loogie or something. That's how it's pronounced. So it's like Kha, your Kha, your Kha. All right, your Kha. Now, personally, because of how fluent I would like to be in the Hebrew, like I really want to be absolutely fluent. I mean, fluent, like to the point where I can make a song in Hebrew or start rapping in the Lashawan Qadash. That's how fluent I would love to be. All right, and so because of so, I study the language almost. Well, I study every day. If you want to really learn something, you got to study it every day. All right, every day. So I practiced this right here. And so you're going to have to practice this every day. You're going to have to practice it every single day to get that sound. So, ha, ha, ha. I'm a stickler on this because it has to be said that way. Or you're going to, like, it's not a ka because there's a letter that's pronounced as ka. There's a letter already that's pronounced as ka, and that's the letter ka. This is not ka. It's ka, 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 ka. Scratch the back of your throat. Ka, ka, ka. Like chawabak, chawalam, chawal. You understand? Chawawadalim. Something like that. Hamachabah. Things like that. It's ka, ka. All right? Ka. Then here's your Assyrian. Your ta. This is your ta in the Assyrian. And here's your ta in the ancient. Here's your ya in the Assyrian. And here's your ya in the ancient. So your ya in the Assyrian, then your ya in the ancient. Here's your ka in the Assyrian, and here's your ka in the ancient. So now pay attention to the ka in the Assyrian side. So when you see this ka right here, where the arrow's being pointed to, all right, you're going to find that kind of ka at the end of a word. Now in the ancient, when you see the ancient script, you're not going to see that. In the Assyrian script, you're going to know a ka that looks like in the beginning, in the middle of a word, and then of course where the arrow is pointing, there's a ka that's going to look like that at the end of a word. So if you see that letter at the end of a word in Hebrew, you know it's ka. All right. Then you got your la in your Assyrian, and your la in the ancient. You got your ma in the Assyrian, and you got your ma in the ancient. Same goes for this. If your ma looks like this, that's how you know it ends with that letter. It ends with that letter, right? You got your na in the Assyrian, and you got your na in the ancient. So if you pay attention closely, right, you can see how that you see that na in the ancient, where it's labeled under ancient, right? That looks like a letter N, right, with just a hook on it. Just like if we go previously to the previous slide, it was a ma. It looked like an M just with a hook on it. Actually, let's just go to it for an example to make that point. You see, it looks like an M, just an upside down M with a hook on it. Like the Hebrew language is one of the oldest languages on the earth. It's one of the oldest languages on the earth, if not the oldest language. So a lot of the letters that you see in the English alphabet, they took from our alphabet and kind of made it theirs, right? And gave it different pronunciations of it, close pronunciations to it. Our language was like a sound-based language, and it was a consonant language, meaning it had a similar sound. Here's your sa. You got your sa in the Syrian, and you got your sa in the ancient. You got your I in the Assyrian, and you got your I in the ancient. So now the letter I, let's focus on this real quick. So now when you're looking at the letter I, it doesn't technically have the ah sound, right? Hold on one second. Okay, never mind. Worry about that later. So now to make a point on this I, the letter I, it doesn't technically have an ah sound, but it does technically have an ah sound. So you see that A right there in front of the I when it says, you see the AI that says or I, that AI is still pronounced as I. Like actually that's how the I is spelled. It's not just spelled with the single I alone. We just say that because we know that that's the I today. But the I, all right, in our language actually had an A in front of it. So that's what would be the I, but it still be pronounced as I. Now the letter I is a old letter. You see, if you look at the ancient, it's just a circle. Well, before the Hebrew language was characteristic, it was um, it was pictographic. Think of like hieroglyphics, right? They had pictures, and those were letters, and those things together created a word. Then a bunch of them put together created a sentence. Then a huge mass of them created a damn paragraph or some story. All right. So now that's what our language looked like at one point. It was pictographic. And so the letter I literally comes from your eyes. You see how your eyes are somewhat circular? It's a circle. All right. Well, that's where the letter I comes from because it literally comes from your eye. How do you say I in Hebrew? Ayan. 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 Iyan. That's how you spell it. And it's pronounced as Ayan. So Ayan. Ayan, all right, would be I. Ayanyam would be eyes. Or Ayanwa, depending on the tense of it. But Ayanyam is how you would say eyes. Ayan is how you would say I. Ayan could be another way to say look. Because what or see. Like what do you do with your eyes? You look, you see. So ayan can also be a verb. All right. So ayan could either be see or look, being used as a verb. Ayan can also be used as a noun referring to your eyes. All right. The reason why I said that because there's different words like that in the Hebrew where it can be a noun or a verb. So in our language, our verbs can be nouns and our nouns can be verbs. Sometimes they can be interchangeable. Mm-hmm. This is your pa. Same thing. See the pa where the arrow is being towards? That's the pa that you would see at the end of a word. That's how you know the word ends with a pa, if you see that right there. So there's your pa in the Assyrian, and there's your pa in the ancient. So you got your pa in the Assyrian and your pa in the ancient. Now here goes your tazah. Here's your tazah in the Assyrian. Then you have your tazah in the ancient. And you see that arrow where the tazah is at? Now this is how you know that the tazah is at the end of a word. So make sure you pay attention to that right there. That's important too. Don't forget these tazahs. Don't forget these endings. So when you're taking your notes, don't forget to take notes on that. Now, speaking of notes, you want to take as many notes as possible, even if it's Hebrew notes, scripture notes, history notes. Take notes in class. Never stop taking notes. I take notes to this day. There's always something you can learn. I take notes to this day, man. Take notes. You're not going to be able to remember everything. Now, unless you're a brother that has a photographic memory and has an endless memory, as if you're a terabyte hard drive, all right, external hard drive, you're a terabyte external hard drive walking, and you're just a walking computer, which is not too far fetched. That's fine. You can be that brother. Take notes. All right, take notes so you can remember. Study your notes so you can commit it to memory. All right, to remember meaning zakar. All right, zakar meaning to memorize, to remember. So make sure you zakar. Take notes to zakar. That's what That's what you should do. Take notes to the car. All right. So you can remember, committed to memory. That's what you should do. All right. You're not going to be able to elevate if you don't. You're not going to be able to grow if you don't take notes. You're not going to get better if you don't take notes. You're not going to get more knowledgeable unless you take notes. Taking notes is everything back here, all right? Don't stop taking notes. Don't think you're too good to take notes. Don't think you know everything to not take notes. Don't get like that. It's a demon. It says, here we go. This is your qua. This is your qua, right? You got your qua in the Assyrian, and you got your qua in the ancient. So you got your qua in the Assyrian, and your qua in the ancient. You got your ra in the Assyrian, you got your ra in the ancient. So now you see how this is right here? You see in the Assyrian, this is what your ra looks like. You see how it almost looks like an R? It's very curved. Don't confuse the two. Don't confuse the ra with the da. Is why I say it. You see that da? The da or the da, right? It's a straight line and down. A straight line and down, right? But that ra is curved. It's curved. Now with your ancient, you see the ra with your ancient or the ancient ra, don't confuse that with your ba. Remember your ba has a curve to it. Your ba has a curve to it. So this is your ba in the Syrian, and you have your ba in the ancient. So your ba in the Syrian and your ba in the ancient. Different. All right, but you see how there's a curve? There's like a hook. Well, your ba has that hook. All right. And you have your ra. There you go. Now let's finish off the alphabet. So what we have here is your sha. We're getting towards the end of the alphabet. This is your sha, like sha, which is the number 6 in Hebrew. Sha. Sha. Then you have your tha in the Assyrian. Then you have your tha in the ancient. That's your tha in the Assyrian and your tha in the ancient. So now let's go over a little bit of some fundamentals. Now fundamentals is everything, man. So when it comes to learning this truth, knowing the fundamentals and the basics of a language, so important. So important. I mean, absolutely. I'll click it on it. Very important. So the fundamentals and the basics of the language, or the fundamentals part of a language, is what's going to help you structure sentences. The goal is to learn the Hebrew to structure sentences so we can be able to speak Hebrew to each other. Just like how the Chinese are able to speak to each other and speak the Mandarin language to each other, and they can understand each other, and they're completely separate from everyone else, and you don't know what they're saying. They can be talking to you, they can be talking about you and calling you the most horrible names ever, and talk about how crazy your mother look, how crazy your father look at kind of shoes, what are those, all these type of things, like whose man's is this, but in Mandarin, but in Chinese. Now, of course, they don't talk like that, but they could be talking all kind of smack, you know what I'm saying, and all kind of junk and all kind of ill stuff. All right, and then you don't know what they're saying because they're speaking Mandarin. Well, that's how fluent you want to become in Hebrew. And so, learning the fundamentals of a language, all right, and how to do things grammatically correct will help you structure sentences. And so, the fundamentals, let's see, because the alphabet is a fundamental. Let's do this. So we call this Hebrew prefixes. Got Hebrew prefixes. I'm gonna leave this on the screen for just a little bit, and I'm gonna go over it. All right, bear with me. Now, before I go real quick, I'm not leaving the class. I just gotta handle something real quick. So now, I want y'all to take note of this. Study it, look it over, because the Hebrew prefixes play a very, very big part when it comes to. I can't go to it now. I gotta do that later. All right. When it comes to reading the Hebrew, these Hebrew prefixes do come in place. All right. They do become relevant. They're very important to know, especially if you want to learn how to structure sentences, which I pray you guys want to do is structure sentences. All right. So I want y'all to take a good eye on this, look at it, put it into your notes, and then eventually study it and commit it to memory. So I'm gonna give y'all time to do that real quick. So now let's go over it real quick. So now you have these Hebrew prefixes, right? And so now they play a very big part when it comes to learning how to structure sentences properly. So now what you have here is you have your ya. All right, you have your ya. All right, you see in your top right corner, there's your ya. All right, you see the ya in the Syrian, and you have the ya in the ancient. So you have the ya in the Syrian, and you have the ya in the ancient, and that ya is how you say he. All right, that ya is how you say he. Then you have yaha. Yaha is how you would say the. Right, the. You see yaha in the Syrian, then you have yaha in the ancient, and that's how you say the. Then you have your ba. You have your ba in, which means in, like going into something, in the name, or in that, or in this, or in the house. All right, that's your ba. You see your ba in the Syrian, then you have your ba, and you have your ba in the ancient. Now remember, this is very fundamental. You want to learn the fundamentals of this because once you start reading the Hebrew, you're going to see certain letters in front of certain words, and you're going to wonder why these letters are there and why, when reading the Hebrew and learning and speaking the Hebrew, you're going to notice that there's something called root words. You're going to realize something. You're going to know something, and these things are called root words. And these root words, all right, these root words are going to be easy to pronounce. But then when you see and read these root words, you're going to see certain letters in front of these root words. And because of so, you're going to have to ask yourself, hey, what is this? What is that? Why is that letter there? Why is this letter in front of here? Why is this letter in the back of this? Why is all of this going on? Why is all of this happening? Well, I want you to pay very close attention to this right here and right now. All right, this is what it is. All right, this is absolutely what it is. All right, you got your ba, then you got your wa, meaning and. So that wa means something, and it means this right here. Your wa. All right, there it goes. Your wa. Your wa meaning and. Your wa meaning and. All right. And if you go to your top left, you have your la. Your la, meaning to or for. To something or for something. That's what la means. That's what la. So these are prefixes, meaning these are the letters that these are technically called words. All right, these are technically called words. All right. So because these are technically called words, all right, you're going to see these letters. You're going to see these letters in front. All right, give me 1 second, Salaki. Let me see this.